Hey everyone, I'm here with a quick story for you on this man from Atlanta who went into a hospital for emergency care. As a result, they had to remove part of his skull and then they lost his skull. They lost it, couldn't find it, and pretty much was like, oh well, and charged him for the synthetic skull that they had to end up putting in his head as a replacement because they lost his original body parts. Let me go ahead and share screen so we can get right into his story because this is unbelievable to me. Let's take a quick listen.
Atlanta couple is now suing Emory Healthcare, accusing doctors of losing a piece of a man's skull in between surgeries.
This all started back in 2022. These are photos of Fernando Cluster in his hospital bed following surgery to treat an intracerebral hemorrhage. Now, it's when Fernando and his wife claimed the hospital lost part of his skull and then charged them more than $19,000 to artificially recreate it.
11 Alive's Angelina Salcido is following this story for us tonight. She joins us live now from Emory Healthcare in Midtown. So, Angelina, the couple's lawyers telling you Fernando's skull was not the only body part misplaced?
Well, Joe, and you hear that, and it's even hard to fathom that a mix-up like this would happen. The lawyer says that a note in her client's medical file let them know that he was not alone. Now, this all started back in September of 2022 when Fernando Cluster fainted and was left with a very serious brain bleed. A few weeks later, he would be ready to go into surgery, but doctors would tell him that that piece of skull that they removed so his brain could heal was gone.
They're scared. They're terrified.
Fear it could happen again. Attorney Chloe Dallaire, representing Fernando Cluster and his wife, trying to get the truth.
They got various contradictory messages about why surgery was postponed. And ultimately, Emory told them that they had lost and misplaced a part of his skull.
This note in his medical file shows doctors couldn't find a bone flap with Cluster's identification, and several others were incomplete or missing patient identification.
It's mind-blowing, literally.
Cluster would get a 3D synthetic flap implanted weeks later. But that wouldn't be the last time that this couple found themselves at Emory Healthcare trying to fix Mr. Cluster's skull, and they would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. So let's walk through it. In November of 2022, that first visit, they would spend at least $40,000, only to find themselves back at the hospital December of 2023 because of an infection and need to remove that flap. There, they'd spend more than $110,500. March of 2024, they would come back to get a brand new flap put in for $77,700. In total, this couple would spend at least $228,200.
Due to a simple act of negligence, something that was entirely preventable, he has to live the rest of his life in fear of getting an infection in his brain and in his skull.
Now, Mr. Cluster is currently doing okay. We are looking forward to talking to him next week. I am told that that should be an interesting conversation, that they're excited to give their viewpoint as well. We did reach out to Emory Healthcare. They told us that they are committed to giving some compassionate health care to their patients, but they are not commenting on pending litigation. We're live tonight in Midtown. Angelina Salcido, 11 Alive News.
An incredible and frustrating story tonight, Angelina. Thank you.
How sad is that, right? Let me give you a little more information on this story. They just lost his body part, and it's like, oh, wow. So hospital hell, patient left with a big dent in his head after hospital staff lost piece of his skull and charged him $19,000 for the replacement. Plus, why the lawsuit alleges that the hospital isn't taking the matter seriously. A patient has filed a lawsuit against an Atlanta hospital after the hospital staff allegedly lost part of his skull during a brain surgery. Fernando Cluster was admitted to Emory University Hospital in September 2022 for a brain bleed, but nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. That's him, okay, with part of his skull missing. This was after the procedure. This is him, still part of his skull was missing. The surgery required the removal of a piece of Cluster's skull called the bone flap. The bone flap, typically removed during a craniotomy, creates an opening in the skull for surgeons to access the brain. In Fernando's case, surgeons removed the bone flap to reduce pressure in his brain, giving it space to swell and heal. 2 months later, Fernando returned to the hospital for a follow-up surgery to have the bone flap, which measured about 4.7 inches by 6 inches, replaced. However, the hospital staff could not locate his bone flap, with some staff alleging that it had been lost with other unidentified bone flaps from different patients. Fernando's hospital file included a note from staff confirming the missing piece, lost and found. We inspected the freezer where bone flaps are stored and could not find a bone flap with Mr. Cluster's patient identification, the note read, as reported by the Atlanta Journal. There were several bone flaps with incomplete or missing patient identification, but we could not be certain which, if any, of these belonged to Mr. Cluster. I mean, this has got to be the most dreadful thing ever. Fernando's surgery then had to be rescheduled, leaving him with a skull depression, commonly referred to as a dent in the head. The Atlanta hospital then had to order a synthetic replacement of his bone flap, extending his hospital stay by 12 days. In November 2022, Fernando underwent the follow-up surgery, but the synthetic bone flap provided further issues. Fernando developed an infection shortly after the surgery, which the lawsuit claims is known as complication of synthetic replacement. Certain materials used to make the synthetic components, such as this hydroxyapatite, acrylic, and BCP, are not always compatible with tissues in the brain. This leads to an immune overreaction in the brain, the cause of the infection. Now, it's saying that pretty much he had this brain bleed and needed this pressure relief because he had a stroke. And so this is very useful information. I'm just going to clean my glasses out as I talk to you, because it tells you the signs of a stroke. And they use the word FAST, but as an acronym, because they're saying that when you suspect someone is having a stroke, the faster you act, the better outcome they will perhaps have. Okay. If you are someone you know has symptoms of a stroke, immediately call 911 or your local emergency services. To recognize the warning signs of a stroke, think FAST. F is for face, A is for arm, S is for speech, T is for time. Face, F is for face. Ask the person to smile. If there is a droop on one or both sides of their face, it may be a sign of muscle weakness or paralysis. A is for arm. Ask the person to raise their arms. A person having a stroke often has muscle weakness on one side. If they have one-sided weakness, one arm will stay in the air while the other may sag or droop downward. S is for speech. Strokes often cause a person to lose their ability to speak. Ask the person to speak. If they slur their speech or having trouble choosing the right words or speaking at all, they may be having a stroke. T is for time. Don't wait to get help. Time is critical when it comes to identifying and treating a stroke. If possible, try to remember when your symptoms started and or how long it's been since you've been experiencing symptoms. Okay, so that was just a little side note there. And mark that in your brain somehow, just in case you are with somebody, a family, a friend, and they may show signs of having a stroke. Not only did Fernando have to spend additional time at the hospital for what the lawsuit claims is the hospital's mistake, but he also suffered severe issues as a result of their solution to replace his displaced bone flap with a synthetic version. The surgeries left him unable to work and unable to pay a massive hospital bill. The bill, which totaled over $146,000 and included $19,000 charge for the synthetic bone flap. I mean, these people are nervy. At the very least, they couldn't give this man a free bone flap. From surgery to jury, Fernando and his wife, Melinda Cluster, are now suing the hospital for injuries and damages. The lawsuit filed on August 8, 2024 alleges that the hospital losing a portion of Fernando's skull has caused ongoing physical and emotional pain and suffering and unnecessary medical bills. It is shocking that a medical provider like Emory will lose part of one of its patient's skull and then refuse to accept responsibility. Fernando and his wife shared in a statement sent from Chloe, their lawyer of the Hornsberry Law Group. We now have to live with the consequences of Emery's negligence. That's the hospital, including daily fear about another infection in my head and medical costs, the statement continued. We want to know if this has happened to other patients to see if they have been given an explanation by Emery. Well, we know it has, because in the note of his chart, it claimed that there was several bone flats or fragments in the freezer, and they don't know who's with who's, which is messy. Our goal is to make sure this never happens again to another patient, Fernando and his wife said. She claims Emery's flippant attitude about losing a part of Fernando's body is the primary focus of the lawsuit, not the monumental hospital bill. She also acknowledged, however, that her clients are obviously upset that they and the insurance company would bill for the costs related to Emery's negligence. The hospital said it would not comment on pending litigation, but did share they remain committed to providing high-quality, compassionate care for patients and those we serve in our communities, according to Atlanta's News First. The U.S. Sun also reached out to Emory Health Services, Health Sciences Communications Office for a comment. This is Fernando prior to surgery. This is not after, so it's a good picture of him. And unfortunately, him and his wife, you know, they're in a fight for justice. And I think if I was the jury, I would hit the gavel, give them the money, tell the judge, hit that gavel, give them the money, and give them the money in the tunes of millions of dollars, because we don't know what his future medical costs are going to be. And also, as a result of this, he's saying that he cannot work. So millions of dollars, as far as I'm concerned. I will keep you connected to this story if I get any updates. But in the meantime, chat with me in the comments, and when I get an opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, people, and I'll see you on the next video.